In a surprise announcement today, President Trump said he's pushing to declare the opioid epidemic a national emergency, which would free up federal funding and loosen restrictions to help combat the crisis. But just days ago, Health and Human Services Secretary Tom Price said the administration would not be declaring a national emergency because the opioid crisis does not meet the criteria and the move was unnecessary. The administration may be at odds with itself, but the latest federal data is clear. The death rate from drug overdoses is going up and reached a new record in 2016. As overdose deaths climb, another drug, Narcan, has become an unfortunate necessity. It can reverse overdose symptoms within minutes, bringing addicts back from the brink of death. Narcan is all too familiar to the residents of Middletown, Ohio, population 48,000, which is on track to see double the number of overdoses as last year.
If I see them, if they've been doing good, and then I see them and they're obviously using again, I've been known to pull over, make U-turns in the street, and say, "What are you doing?"
Jerry Lewis calls herself a missionary. Since she moved here 6 years ago, she's been voluntarily driving the streets of Middletown, Ohio, looking to help addicts get clean.
I'd say the last 2 to 3 years, it seems like it's just getting worse as far as heroin. We see more kids 3, 4 years old coming to the park without supervision, and then when you ask their story and you learn, mom's usually high at home.
3 or 4-year-old children?
Yes.
By themselves?
By themselves. There's Josh. I have food for you.
I'm tired.
Lewis tries to check in regularly with this homeless couple. He's overdosed and been revived with Narcan several times.
Do you want to get your stuff and meet us somewhere?
I ain't gonna lie, I'm trying to make money. If it involves money, I'm cool with that. Boo! Hey.
She's upset I wouldn't give her cash. By the way he was acting, I'd say he's going off.
Overdoses in Middletown have become so common, people post them on a local Facebook page.
It is frustrating because it doesn't seem like there's a solution to stop the constant reviving of the same people over and over and over again. I think that as long as someone has potential breath or life, that we need to do all we can to breathe that into them. When we're not, then we're letting people die. That is our choice, and it's not a good choice to let people die.
But in Middletown, that choice of whether or not to save people has become controversial. In June, City Councilman Dan Pickard proposed that the city's first responders should not be dispatched to save addicts with Narcan who overdose for a third time.
It's out of control. And I'm sorry, it's been out of control for 60 years.
At $30 per Narcan dose, the city is on track to spend $100,000 on the drug this year. Only a small fraction of the city's budget, but almost 9 times more than they spent last year. But Pickard says Middletown's budget simply can't handle the resource strain overdose victims create.
We're spending all of our money helping them while they're engaged in some illegal activity, which only benefits themselves. And I'm sorry, they're a real problem for society.
After a vocal backlash and threats of lawsuits, Pickard withdrew the proposal.
People would say with that you're swapping dollars for lives.
No, I'm making a choice. We have to make a decision about where we're going to send our resources. And if it continues the way it is, yeah, people will die because we will not get to them. But unfortunately, what's going to happen is that heart attack victims are going to die, car crash people are going to die because we're out doing these other runs.
Pickard's proposal has sparked a heated debate in Middletown. If the city can't save everyone, who deserves to get help?
If there wasn't the safety net there and they thought that, hey, this could end me right now, half of them are going to quit it right then.
Do you think so? Because if someone's addicted to heroin, they're not going to care if they've got a safety net or not.
I think they'll die off.
They're going to die off.
Oh,
I think they'll die off. I do. And I think that's one way that you get rid of it.
Do you think people are seriously considering that as an option?
Oh, my Lord, I hear it all the time.
I think they should cut it and let them weed themselves out. They're choosing to do it. They know it can kill them.
What do you think about what Dan Pickard said?
You know, my initial thought was that I agreed with him, you know, because I've you know, being a part of this community, sometimes it makes you hard. And at the same time, I'm a humanitarian, and I just couldn't, at the end of the day, if someone was laying in front of me dying, I couldn't allow that to happen.
Even though Pickard's ordinance was shot down, He says just proposing it had an effect. In the months since it made news, overdose emergency responses in town fell from 38 a week to 14.
I think people have decided not to come to Middletown to buy drugs and do their drugs in Middletown because they're afraid of the fact that we might not respond.
Couldn't that just be as a result of the drugs aren't coming through? They might not be laced with certain things. I mean, you have no evidence to show
right.
that is the reason.
You're exactly right. I have no evidence to prove that I'm right in what I'm saying, but by the same token, I have no evidence that anything else that you just suggested had an impact. I feel that I have opened up a discussion about it, not just in Middletown, but around the world.
Lewis says that discussion needs to include the reality she sees on the streets.
What Dan Picard said, whether you agree with it or not, has, it seems, to have ignited a debate.
Which is good.
Do you welcome that?
Yeah. I don't welcome what he said, but I welcome the debate because that means that we can bring a voice to the whole thing.
But what's happened is, it seems, actually a lot of people have come out and said, well, we agree with him.
That's the easy way out. It seems like the easy answer. But then what are you going to do with all of the dead bodies, all of those that OD? There has to be some sort of accountability.